Princess Lyra Shah stood before the mirror in her chambers, watching as her attendants adjusted the ceremonial robes that blended Valkyrie silk with human cotton. The fabric felt strange against her chitinous skin, neither fully her culture nor fully theirs, just like this marriage would be. She was doing this for peace. Her people, the Valkyrie Confederacy, had fought humanity for 30 years across a dozen star systems. Both sides had bled, both sides had lost millions, and both sides had finally admitted that neither could win. The treaty had been signed 6 months ago. Now came the harder part, making two species trust each other. "You look beautiful, Princess," her chief attendant clicked softly in their language. Lyra Shah's antennae twitched with doubt. Beautiful was not what she needed to be today. She needed to be strong, diplomatic, a symbol of unity between two civilizations that had been killing each other since before she was born. The human she was supposed to marry arrived at the palace 3 hours before the ceremony. Captain Marcus Chen, they called him. Lyra Shah had studied his file extensively. He was 42 years old by human reckoning, a career military officer who had served in the war, now reassigned to diplomatic service. The file said he enjoyed classical music, spoke 4 languages, including basic Valkyrie, and had requested this assignment specifically. That last part confused her. What human would volunteer to marry an alien species? When they met formally for the first time, Lyra Shah was struck by how small he seemed. Humans were shorter than Valkyrie on average, and Marcus was not particularly tall, even by his species standards. He had dark hair touched with gray at the temples, kind eyes, and a calm demeanor that seemed genuine rather than practiced. "Princess Lyra Shah," he said, bowing in the Valkyrie style, with his hands crossed over his chest. "I am honored to meet you." His Valkyrie was accented but clear. "Captain Chen," she replied in English, deciding to meet him halfway. "The honor is mine." They spent the next weeks in what humans called courtship, and Valkyrie called evaluation. Marcus surprised her constantly. He was not what she expected from a military officer. Instead of being aggressive or domineering, he was thoughtful and gentle. He asked about her interests, her studies in xenobiology, her love of Valkyrie classical poetry. He shared his own passions, ancient Earth literature, philosophy, the music of dead composers whose names she could barely pronounce. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens under the light of 3 moons, Marcus recited poetry. Not Valkyrie poetry, though he had studied that too, but human verses from a poet named Rilke. "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror," he said softly. No beauty without terror. Lyra Shah felt her heart's flutter at the words. Perhaps this would not be as terrible as she feared. The wedding ceremony blended both cultures in ways that sometimes worked and sometimes clashed awkwardly. Valkyrie priests sang the ancient bonding harmonics, while human officials read legal declarations. Lyra Shah wore white, the Valkyrie color of new beginnings, while Marcus wore black, which apparently meant formality and respect in human culture. When they exchanged vows, Lyra Shah found herself meaning the words more than she had expected. Marcus's hand was warm when she took it, so different from the cool chitin of her own people. "I promise to honor you," he said, his voice steady, "to learn from you, and to build something better than war between our peoples." "I promise the same," she replied, and realized she wanted to mean it. The reception lasted for hours, with delegates from dozens of worlds watching this symbolic union. Lyra Shah danced the traditional Valkyrie spiral dance with her new husband, who had clearly practiced the complex steps. He was graceful, despite his different physiology, moving with a precision that spoke of discipline and dedication. Later, in their new shared quarters on Unity Station, where they would live as symbols of the Alliance, Lyra Shah and Marcus sat together in comfortable silence. "Are you afraid?" she asked him suddenly. "Of you? No," he said. "Of failing at this?" Yes, every day, I did not think humans admitted fear. He smiled at that, a small, sad expression. Humans are afraid of everything, he told her. We are just very good at pretending otherwise. Lyra found that answer more reassuring than any claim of bravery would have been. Over the following months, they settled into an unexpected partnership. Marcus was patient with her reactions to human customs, and she tried to be patient with his struggles to understand Velkari's social hierarchies. They worked together on Unity Station, a joint diplomatic outpost that housed both species. Their quarters became a blend of both worlds. Velkari crystalline art next to human paintings, furniture adjusted for both their body types, books in multiple languages scattered everywhere. Lyra began to believe this might actually work. Then the messages started coming from the border. The Vraxian Empire, a brutal power that had been expanding for decades, had noticed the new alliance between humanity and the Velkari. The Vraxians were conquerors, pure and simple. They had enslaved a dozen species and stripped 20 worlds bare of resources. Intelligence reports suggested they saw the Velkari human peace as weakness rather than strength. Two enemies making friends, the Vraxian war chief had reportedly laughed, means two easy targets instead of one hard one. The ultimatum arrived on a cold morning, station time. Submit to Vraxian rule or be destroyed. Both the Confederacy and Earth's government had 30 days to decide. Lyra was in their quarters when Marcus read the message. She watched something change in his eyes, something cold and distant that she had never seen before. "Marcus," she said quietly. He looked at her, and for just a moment, she saw a stranger. Then he smiled, and he was her husband again, gentle and thoughtful. He said, "Diplomacy is about to get much more complicated." Lyra agreed, not knowing that complicated was the smallest word for what was coming. She had married a human for peace. She had no idea what humans became when peace was no longer an option. Unity Station orbited a blue gas giant on the edge of contested space, home to 3,000 souls from two species trying to make peace work. Lyra had come to love the station despite its utilitarian design. The observation decks offered stunning views of the swirling clouds below, and the diplomatic halls hummed with the sounds of both languages mixing together. She and Marcus had been assigned offices next to each other in the Cultural Exchange Division. Their days were filled with meetings, reports, and the endless small negotiations that built trust between former enemies. But something was changing in Marcus. Lyra noticed it in small ways at first. He woke earlier than before, often at what humans called 0400 hours, to exercise in the station's gym. She had seen him training once through the transparent walls, running, lifting weights, moving through combat forms with a fluid precision that seemed excessive for a diplomat. When she asked about it, he had simply said it helped him think. The nightmare started 2 weeks after the Vraxian ultimatum. Lyra would wake to find Marcus sitting up in bed, breathing hard, staring at nothing. He never talked about what he saw in those dreams. "Old memories," was all he would say, nothing important. But Lyra was beginning to suspect that everything about Marcus's past was important in ways she did not understand. She began asking other humans on the station about him. Lieutenant Sarah Park, a young officer who worked in communications, seemed nervous when Lyra brought up Marcus's name. "The captain is a good man," Sarah said carefully. "He has always been kind to me." "But," Lyra pressed. Sarah looked around as if checking for listeners. "But you should ask him about Proxima," she whispered, "about what happened there during the war." Database for information about Proxima. She found most files were classified above her security clearance. The few fragments she could access mentioned a battle, human special forces, and casualty numbers that seemed impossibly high. Marcus's name appeared in some documents, but always with sections redacted in black. She confronted him that evening in their quarters. "What happened at Proxima?" she asked directly. Marcus was reading a book, an actual physical book made of paper that he had brought from Earth. He looked up slowly, his expression unreadable. "That is not something I can discuss," he said. "It is classified. I am your wife." "You are also a Valkyrie princess," Marcus said gently, "and Proxima involved operations against Valkyrie forces. The treaty requires that certain things remain secret so that both sides can move forward." Lyra wanted to argue, but something in his tone told her she would get nowhere. Meanwhile, the Vraxian threat grew worse each day. The 30-day deadline came and went, with both the Confederacy and humanity rejecting the ultimatum. The Vraxians responded by attacking a mining colony in the outer reaches. 2,000 civilians died in 3 hours. The colony had no military defenses, no strategic value. It was pure intimidation. Intelligence reports flooded into Unity Station. The Vraxians were massing their fleets, calling in ships from across their empire. They were preparing for something big. Commander Thrace, the Valkyrie military liaison on the station, gave briefings that became more grim each week. "They view us as weak," Thrace clicked, his mandibles tight with frustration. "Vulnerable." Marcus attended these briefings, usually sitting quietly in the back. But Lyra noticed how his eyes tracked every detail, how he asked precise questions about Vraxian fleet compositions and tactical doctrines. He was not acting like a diplomat anymore. He was acting like a soldier. One night, Lyra found him in the station's tactical center at 0200 hours. The room was supposed to be empty at that hour, but Marcus stood before a holographic display showing star charts of the border regions. Vraxian fleet positions glowed in red. Valkyrie and human assets showed in blue and green. Marcus was moving icons around, running simulations, his face illuminated by the ghostly light. "You cannot sleep?" Lyra asked from the doorway. Marcus did not seem surprised by her presence. "I am remembering things," he said softly. "What things?" "Things I hoped I would never need again." Her, and in the strange light, his face seemed older, harder. "The Vraxians are making a mistake," Marcus said. "They think we are weak because we chose peace. They do not understand that peace is not weakness, it is a choice. And what happens when that choice is taken away?" Marcus smiled, and it was not a kind expression. Then humans stopped choosing. 3 days later, the Vraxian fleet attacked again. This time, they hit a small colony world called Haven's Rest, home to both Valkyrie and human settlers. The colony had been established specifically as a symbol of cooperation between the two species. Families of both races lived there, raised children there, built futures there. The Vraxians burned it from orbit. 15,000 civilians dead. Men, women, children, both species. The images that came back from Haven's Rest were horrific. Lyra watched the footage in the command center and felt sick. Beside her, Marcus stood perfectly still. His face showed no expression at all, which was somehow worse than anger would have been. Thrace said, his voice shaking with rage, "Seeing if we will fight or surrender." Admiral Kess, the senior Valkyrie officer on the station, called an emergency meeting. "We must respond," Kess announced, "but carefully. We cannot let rage dictate our tactics." "They are coming here next," someone said. It was Marcus. Everyone turned to look at him. "Their fleet movements indicate a major push into this sector," Marcus continued, his voice calm and clinical. "Unity Station is both a strategic position and a symbolic target. They will attack within 72 hours. "How can you know this?" Admiral Kess demanded. "Because it is what I would do." The room fell silent. Lyra stared at her husband, seeing a stranger wearing his face. "We need to evacuate non-essential personnel," Marcus said, "and prepare for a defense that will likely fail unless we change our tactical approach." "Captain Chen," Admiral Kess clicked sharply, "you are a diplomatic officer. not a military strategist. Marcus looked at the admiral with eyes that held something ancient and cold. "Yes," he said quietly, "I am whatever the Alliance needs me to be." That night, Lyra Shaw could not sleep. She lay in their bed, listening to Marcus breathe beside her. He was not asleep either, she could tell. "Marcus," she whispered, "who are you really?" In the darkness his hand found hers. His grip was gentle, but she could feel the strength in his fingers. That came from weapons training, not diplomatic work. "I am your husband," he said, "and I am someone who has done terrible things for good reasons." "Tell me." "I cannot." "Then show me," Larasha said. "Show me who you are when peace ends." Marcus was quiet for a long time. "You may not like what you see," he finally said. "I need to know." "You will," Marcus promised, and his voice carried a weight of certainty that frightened her. "The Vraxians are going to make sure of that." 2 days later, the alarms began to scream. The Vraxian fleet had arrived. The tactical display showed 47 Vraxian warships dropping out of hyperspace in attack formation. Unity Station's defense fleet consisted of 12 Valkyrie cruisers and 15 human frigates. The numbers were brutally clear. "We are outnumbered nearly 2-to-1, Admiral Kess stated, her antennae rigid with stress. "And their ships are heavier than ours." Commander Thrace pulled up the tactical analysis. "They are positioning to cut off retreat routes. If we stay, we die. If we run, the civilians on Haven Station die." Haven Station was a small outpost near the colony world, home to 5,000 refugees who had fled the earlier attacks. Valkyrie doctrine was clear in situations like this: preserve the fleet to fight another day. "We retreat," Admiral Kess ordered. "We will regroup with the main battle group at Sanctuary Point." "No." The word came from Marcus, who stood at the back of the command center. He had been silent until now, watching the displays with that same calculating expression Lyrisha had seen more and more often. "Captain Chen," Admiral Kess turned to face him, "this is not a diplomatic matter." "You are correct," Marcus agreed. "It is a military one, and your strategy will result in the deaths of 5,000 civilians and the loss of this sector." "We cannot win this engagement." Marcus stepped forward, moving to the central holographic display. His fingers danced across them. Controls, bringing up new data. "We can win," he said, "if we change the parameters of the battle." He manipulated the display, showing human ships moving into an aggressive spear formation. The plan appeared on the screen: a direct assault into the center of the Vraxian line, using the human vessels as a battering ram while Valkyrie ships provided supporting fire. Admiral Kess stared at the projection. "That is suicide," she said flatly. "You would lose half your ships in the first engagement." 63% by my calculations," Marcus corrected. "But we would break their formation and create an opening for Haven Station to evacuate. 63% casualties are unacceptable." "They are acceptable if the alternative is 100% civilian casualties." Lyrisha watched her husband argue tactics with cold mathematical precision. This was not the man who read poetry to her. Entirely. "The Vraxians expect us to run," Marcus continued. "They are predators. Their entire tactical doctrine assumes that prey retreats. We surprise them by attacking. We break their formation. We make them afraid." "Humans do not make Vraxians afraid," Thrace said. Marcus smiled, and it was a terrible expression. "Yes," he said quietly, "we do." Admiral Kess shook her head. "I cannot authorize a suicide mission based on the theory that Vraxians will be surprised." "Then I invoke Treaty Clause 17, Section 4, Marcus said. The room went silent. Lyrisha knew that clause. It allowed commanders of either species to assume independent operational command of their own forces under specific circumstances. "You cannot be serious," Admiral Kess said. "I am deadly serious, Admiral," Marcus replied. Marcus touched his communicator. This is Chen to all human vessels, he said, his voice carrying a tone of absolute authority. Authorization code Victor Tango 77 Reaper. Operational command protocol is now active. Lyrasha felt her blood go cold. Reaper? The human ships responded instantly. Confirmed Reaper actual, came the replies, awaiting orders. Admiral Kess stared at Marcus with new understanding in her eyes. Reaper, she whispered, you are the Reaper of Proxima. Marcus did not deny it. Human vessels will execute Assault Pattern Omega, he ordered, ignoring the Admiral. Valkyrie ships are requested, but not required to provide fire support. All ships acknowledge. The acknowledgments came back immediately. The human crews did not hesitate. They trusted him completely. What is Proxima? Lyrasha demanded, her voice shaking. What is Reaper? Marcus, what are you? He turned to look at her, and his eyes held something between regret and resignation. I am what humans become when we stop being polite, he said. Then he turned back to the tactical display and began issuing orders. The battle started 3 minutes later. Lyrasha watched from the command center as the human fleet formed up into a tight spear formation. They accelerated directly toward the Vraxian line. No evasive maneuvers, no caution, just straight, aggressive speed. They are insane, Thrace breathed. The Vraxians opened fire at maximum range. Human shields flared and died. 3 frigates exploded in the first salvo. Marcus did not even flinch. Maintain formation, he ordered. All ships redirect shield power to forward arc. We only need to survive long enough to reach knife fight range. They are sacrificing themselves, Admiral Kess said, but there was a strange note of respect in her voice. 2 more human ships died. Then they hit the Vraxian line. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for years. The human ships did not fight like any civilized species fought. They rammed when their weapons failed. They detonated their own reactors to take out enemy vessels. They broadcast taunts and battle cries that spoke of old Earth warriors, Vikings and Spartans and samurai and Marines. No prisoners, someone screamed over the open channel. No retreat, another voice added. No mercy, the human fleet roared as one. Marcus coordinated it all with calm precision. He was not excited or angry. He simply directed death with the efficiency of an engineer solving a complex problem. The Vraxian formation broke. Had never encountered an enemy that treated ships as expendable, that valued victory over survival, that fought with such pure, calculated rage. Valkyrie ships, Marcus said. Execute flanking pattern Sierra. Target their command vessel. Admiral Kess hesitated only a moment before giving the order. The Valkyrie cruisers swept in, their superior shields and weapons finding targets in the chaos. The battle turned into a knife fight at ranges that violated every standard tactical doctrine. A human destroyer, its hull breached and atmosphere venting, crashed directly into a Vraxian battleship. Both exploded in a fireball that lit up local space. Pull back, the Vraxian commander broadcast. Retreat. They ran. The mighty Vraxian fleet, outnumbering the defenders 2-1, broke and ran from an enemy that should have been easy prey. Marcus watched them go with cold satisfaction. Pursue and harass, he ordered, but do not overextend. Primary objective is civilian evacuation. The human ships, what remained of them, followed the fleeing Vraxians just far enough to ensure they kept running. Then they returned to cover the evacuation of Haven Station. Lyrasha looked at the casualty reports. 9 human ships destroyed. 4 more crippled beyond repair. Nearly 3,000 human crew dead or dying. But Haven Station was safe. The civilians would live. Marcus stood in the center of the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing damage reports and casualty lists. He read each one carefully. Send my personal condolences to the families, he said quietly. and make sure everyone understands their sacrifice mattered. Then he turned to face Lyrasha. She took a step back. "Who are you?" she whispered. "I am Marcus Chen," he said, "the Reaper of Proxima, former commander of Human Special Operations, responsible for 17 classified military actions during the war, and the reason your people agreed to peace. You killed Valkyrie." "I killed thousands of Valkyrie," Marcus said flatly. "Good soldiers following orders, just like the humans who died today. I am very good at killing, Princess. That is why they made me a diplomat, to turn a weapon into a symbol." Lyrasha felt her world crumbling. She had married a monster. "The Vraxians are not finished," Marcus continued. "This was just a probe. The real war is coming, and when it does, you need to decide if you want a husband who writes poetry or one who wins battles." He walked past her toward the exit. "I cannot be both," he said quietly. "I wish I could, but I cannot." Lyrasha stood alone in the command center, watching the casualty reports scroll past, and wondered if she had ever really known the man she married. Lyrasha found Marcus in the observation deck at midnight station time. He stood alone, staring out at the stars, his reflection ghostly in the transparent aluminum. "I searched the databases," she said. "I used my security clearance to access files about Proxima." Marcus did not turn around. "And what did you learn?" "That 20,000 Valkyrie soldiers died in 3 days, Lyrasha said, her voice tight. "That an entire battle group vanished, that survivors spoke of humans fighting like demons, appearing from nowhere, killing without mercy." "The survivors exaggerated," Marcus said quietly. "We were just very well trained. You led those operations. I planned them, coordinated them, and participated in many of them personally." Lyrasha moved to stand beside him. In the window's reflection, they looked like creatures from different worlds, which of course they were. "Why did they choose you for this marriage?" she asked. Marcus finally turned to face her. "Because I was famous among your people," he said. "The Reaper of Proxima was a name Valkyrie soldiers whispered to frighten each other. When I agreed to become a diplomat, to marry a Valkyrie princess, it sent a message. Even our worst killer wants peace." "It was propaganda." "It was hope," Marcus corrected gently. "Both sides needed someone to prove that enemies could become something else." "Can they?" He smiled sadly. "I thought so," he said. "I wanted to be the man I pretended to be, the poet, the philosopher, the gentle husband. I wanted to forget Proxima and everything I did there." "But you cannot forget." "No," Marcus agreed, "and now the Vraxians have made it clear that pretending will not be enough." Lyrasha sat down on one of the observation benches. "Tell me everything," she said. "No more secrets." So Marcus told her. He had been recruited into Human Special Forces at 22, trained in combat, tactics, and the dark arts of asymmetric warfare. When the Valkyrie War began, he proved to have a gift for planning operations that achieved maximum results with minimum resources. Proxima had been his masterpiece and his nightmare. A Valkyrie battle group had occupied the Proxima system, cutting off human colonies from supply lines. Standard tactics could not dislodge them. So Marcus had proposed something unprecedented. Infiltrate the Valkyrie command structure, sabotage their logistics, and create chaos that would make them abandon the system. Worked better than anyone expected. The Valkyrie fleet tore itself apart from within, unable to distinguish friend from enemy. 20,000 died, and Marcus had orchestrated every death. "I was 29 years old," Marcus said, "and I had become very good at killing. The brass promoted me, gave me medals, and sent me to do it again." He had run 17 more operations, each one classified, each one successful, each one adding to the Reaper's legend. By the time peace talks began, both sides knew they could not win. The Valkyrie could not conquer humanity, because humans fought with a ferocity that made victory too costly. Humans could not conquer the Valkyrie, because the Confederacy had superior numbers and technology. So, they negotiated. And Marcus, the symbol of everything terrible about the war, became a symbol of peace instead. "I thought I could leave it behind," he said. "But you cannot unlearn how to kill efficiently. You can only choose not to do it. And now you must choose to do it again." "The Vraxians are planning something massive," Marcus said. "Intelligence indicates they are assembling what they call the Grand Armada, everything they have, for one overwhelming strike against both our civilizations." Lyra Shaw felt cold. "When?" "3 months, maybe 4. Can we stop them?" Marcus looked at her with ancient eyes. "I can stop them," he said. "But it will require both our peoples to fight in ways they never have before. The Valkyrie must learn to accept casualties, to value victory over honor. Humans must learn to fight with discipline instead of rage. You want to command the combined fleet. I am probably the only person who can make it work." Lyra Shaw stood and paced the observation deck. Everything she believed about her husband had been a lie. He was not gentle. He was not peaceful. He was a carefully controlled weapon, pretending to be a person. "I do not know if I can love what you truly are," she said honestly. "I know," Marcus replied. "I do not know if I can love what I am either. But you are what we need. Perhaps." Lyra Shaw made her decision. "I will speak to the High Council," she said. "I will tell them to give you command. They will ask questions. Then I will tell them the truth," Lyra Shaw said, "that I married the Reaper of Proxima, and that he is the only chance we have." The High Council meeting took place 3 days later via quantum communication link. Stood before the holographic projections of the 7 counselors who led the Valkyrie Confederacy. Admiral Kess and Marcus stood with her. "You ask us to place our entire military under the command of a human," Counselor Veksha clicked skeptically. "A human with a history of killing our people?" "I ask you to place our military under the command of someone who knows how to win impossible battles," Lyra Shaw said. "Captain Chen's record is disturbing." "Commander Chen's record is why we made peace," Admiral Kess interjected. "I have reviewed the classified files. Proxima was not the only operation. He ran campaigns that crippled our logistics, destroyed our intelligence networks, and made our soldiers afraid to sleep." "You recommend this?" Veksha asked the Admiral. "I recommend we survive," Kess said bluntly. "The Vraxians will not negotiate. They will enslave or exterminate us. Commander Chen offers us a chance." Marcus had been silent throughout the discussion. Now he spoke. "I do not want this command," he said quietly. "I wanted to be retired, to build a life with my wife, to never plan another battle. But the Vraxians have taken that choice away. What guarantee do we have that you will not turn on us?" another counselor asked. "None," Marcus said honestly. "You must trust me, just as I must trust that Valkyrie ships will follow my orders even when they seem insane." "Trust," Counselor Veksha said slowly. "You ask for trust from people you killed." "I ask for a chance to kill your enemies instead," Marcus corrected. The council debated for 2 hours. Lyra Shaw watched her husband's face remain impassive throughout. Finally, Counselor Veksha spoke. "The High Council grants provisional supreme command to Marcus Chen for the duration of the Vraxian crisis," she announced. "But we require Princess Lyra Shaw to remain at his side as observer and advisor." "Agreed," Marcus said. "One more condition," Veksha added. "You will share your tactical plans with our War Council. No more secrets, no more classified operations that we learn about decades later." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "Transparency in exchange for authority," he said. "Acceptable." The meeting ended. Marcus and Lyra Shaw walked back to their quarters in silence. "Are you afraid?" she asked him. "Terrified," he admitted. "Not of the Vraxians, but of becoming the Reaper again. That person did terrible things, and I fear what happens if I let him out." "Then do not become him fully," Lyra Shaw said. Be Marcus Chen, who happens to know how to win wars. I am not sure the distinction exists. They reached their quarters. Inside, Lyrisha took his hand. I will stay with you, she said. I do not know if I can love the Reaper, but I can stand beside him. Maybe that is enough for now. Marcus pulled her close, and she felt him trembling. Thank you, he whispered. Do not thank me yet, Lyrisha said. First, win the war. Then we will see what kind of man you are when the killing stops. If it stops. It will, she said with more confidence than she felt. Because you are not just a weapon, Marcus. You are also the man who reads Rilke, and knows that there is no beauty without terror. Marcus held her tighter. Outside their window, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the Vraxian Grand Armada was gathering. The war was coming, and the Reaper of Proxima was waiting. The Vraxian Grand Armada arrived at the Twin World system exactly when Marcus predicted it would. 200 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled by the Vraxian Empire, against a combined Velkari human force of 90 vessels. The odds were terrible. The stakes were everything. All ships report ready, Admiral Kess announced from her position on the command flagship. Marcus stood at the center of the tactical theater, surrounded by holographic displays showing every ship, every weapon, every variable in the coming battle. Lyrisha stood beside him, as she had promised. She had watched him prepare for this moment over 3 months of intense training and coordination. The Velkari crews had learned human assault tactics. The human crews had learned Velkari defensive formations. Both sides had learned to trust each other. Operation Ragnarok is go, Marcus announced, his voice calm. All units move to starting. Positions, HP. The Vraxian war chief broadcast on all frequencies. P. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. The massive alien growled. Resist and we will make examples of your worlds. P. Marcus opened a channel. P. This is Commander Chen of the Allied Defense Force, he said. We reject your terms. Come and take what you think you can. The war chief laughed. Humans and Velkari fighting together? He said. 2 weak species do not make one strong one. You are about to learn otherwise. The battle began. The Vraxian fleet advanced in their traditional hammer formation, designed to crush enemies through overwhelming force. Marcus let them come. Hold positions, he ordered. Let them commit to the attack vector. The Vraxians opened fire at extreme range. Velkari shields, the best in known space, absorbed the punishment. Human point defense systems, faster and more precise than anything the Velkari had designed, intercepted incoming missiles. The combination was stronger than either technology alone. They are closing to optimal range, Kess reported. Execute Ragnarok Phase 1, Marcus said. The Allied fleet suddenly split into 3 groups. The center, composed of heavy Velkari cruisers, held position and continued absorbing fire. The wings, made up of human frigates and destroyers, accelerated to flanking speeds that seemed suicidal. They are surrounding themselves, the Vraxian war chief broadcast. Foolish prey. But Marcus was not surrounding his own ships. He was surrounding the Vraxian fleet. Phase 2, he ordered. The human wing ships activated a piece of technology that had been developed in secret. Velkari shield generators married to human reactor cores. The result was a shield wall that cut off the Vraxian retreat. They are trapped, Lyrisha breathed. They trapped themselves, Marcus corrected. They committed to an attack vector assuming we would retreat. Now they have nowhere to go but through us. The Vraxian war chief realized his mistake too late. He ordered his fleet to punch through the center where the Velkari cruisers waited. It was exactly what Marcus wanted. Velkari ships, show them what our armor can do, he said. The Velkari cruisers, instead of fighting at range as they traditionally did, closed to knife-fight distance. Their shields held, while Vraxian ships pounded them. Then the human ships swept in from the flanks. Remember your training, Marcus broadcast to all human vessels. Precision over rage. Discipline over fury. We are not here to die gloriously. We are here to win. The human ships fought with a controlled aggression that was terrifying to witness. They used Valkyrie defensive technology to survive longer. They used their own speed and weapons to strike at precise points Marcus had identified as weak spots in Vraxian ship design. Target their reactor couplings, Marcus directed. 3-shot bursts. Move to next target. Do not waste ammunition on armor. The Vraxians had never faced an enemy like this. The Valkyrie would not break under pressure. The humans would not die stupidly. Together they fought with the best qualities of both species. Lyrisha watched the battle unfold with growing understanding. This was what Marcus had meant about humans choosing. They could fight with rage and fury when needed, but they could also fight with cold, calculated precision when that served better. Phase 3, Marcus announced. Valkyrie and human strike teams, trained together over the past 3 months, launched from hidden positions. Their target was the Vraxian command ship. Marcus had insisted on leading one of these teams personally. Lyrisha had insisted on going with him. You are the supreme commander, she had argued. You should not risk yourself. I am asking soldiers to die, Marcus had replied. The least I can do is be willing to die with them. Now they rode in a boarding craft, along with 5 human marines and 5 Valkyrie warriors. The craft dodged through the battle, using the chaos as cover. They breached the Vraxian command ship through a waste port, the least defended entry point. Inside, they fought their way toward the bridge. Lyrisha had never been in ground combat before. She watched Marcus move through the corridors with fluid efficiency. He was not the largest or strongest fighter, but he was the most precise. Every shot found its target. Every movement had purpose. When a Vraxian soldier surrendered, dropping his weapon, Marcus accepted immediately. Secure him, he ordered. Treat him well. The juxtaposition was dizzying. Marcus would kill without hesitation when needed. But he showed mercy the instant it was offered. They reached the bridge to find the war chief waiting with his personal guard. The fight was brutal. Valkyrie warriors used their natural strength and armor. Human marines used speed and tactics. Marcus coordinated them, calling out targets, creating openings. The war chief fell to a combined assault from both species. As he died, he looked at Marcus with something like understanding. You fight like us, he gasped. Like conquerors. No, Marcus said. We fight like defenders. There is a difference. The Vraxian fleet broke when their war chief died. Without central command, their aggression turned to chaos. They scattered, running for hyperspace. Marcus let them go. Pursue only to ensure they leave the system, he ordered. No need to make it a slaughter. The Battle of the Twin Worlds ended with total Allied victory. Casualties were heavy. 23 ships lost, thousands dead. But both the Valkyrie homeworld and humanity's largest colony were safe. The Vraxian Empire would not threaten this region of space for generations. In the aftermath, Lyrisha and Marcus stood together in the observation deck of the flagship, watching recovery crews search for survivors among the debris. You did it, she said quietly. We did it, Marcus corrected. Valkyrie discipline and human adaptability. Neither could have won alone. Is it over? The fighting is, Marcus said. Now comes the harder part, figuring out what we do with peace. Lyrisha took his hand. I have been thinking about that, she said. I do not love the Reaper of Proxima, and I am not sure I can. Marcus nodded, his expression resigned. But I respect him, Lyrisha continued, and I think I am beginning to love Marcus Chen, the man who carries the Reaper inside him, but chooses to be more. I do not know if I can be more. You already are, she said. You accepted that Vraxian surrender. The Reaper would not have done that. Marcus considered this. Perhaps, he said, perhaps I can be both, the warrior when needed and the poet when possible. That is all anyone can ask. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. The war had revealed truths that could not be unseen. Humans were not weak, just selective about when to use their strength. Velkari were not rigid, just disciplined about how they applied their power. Together, they were something unprecedented. A week later, formal celebrations were held on both homeworlds. Marcus and Lyra attended as symbols of the alliance, no longer just political convenience, but genuine partners. In private, they were still figuring out what their marriage meant. "Do you still read Rilke?" Lyra asked one evening. Marcus smiled. "Would you like to hear some?" "Yes." He recited from memory. "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage." Lyra asked, "Did you slay any dragons?" "I think we both did," Marcus said, and found out they were just people after all, trying to survive. "Some poetry for a warrior, some warrior for a poet," Marcus agreed. They had both changed. The princess had learned that peace required warriors willing to defend it. The warrior had learned that being strong meant knowing when not to fight. Together they would build something neither could have created alone. Not just an alliance between species, but a marriage between two people who had seen each other's darkness and light, and chosen to stay anyway. Outside their window, the stars shone bright, no longer separated by war, but connected by a peace that had been forged in fire and tempered by understanding. It was not the ending either had expected, but it was real. Sometimes, Lyra thought, real was better than perfect.